Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our main event. May I remind you that if you find yourself easily triggered or offended, this is not the place for you. I must also inform you that this show is for entertainment purposes only. So, if you enjoy open, honest, and intelligent banter, welcome. If not, get the fuck out. Now, it's time for Toe to Toe. Common sense conversation for uncommon times. Please welcome your hosts on Toe to Toe, John Mulrooney and Kevin Downey Jr.
KDJ, back from the abyss, ladies and gentlemen. Back on the... Is that a bug? Look at that. Just as I'm saying this, there's a bug crawling across my lens. Do you see that? Wow, that was bizarre.
I hate when that happens.
A little
that
fly.
Happened to me.
Hey, what do you call a fly with no legs? A walk. What? A walk. Kevin Downey Jr., ladies and gentlemen, on the Toe to Toe show. My name is John Mulrooney. He's back from traveling places far and exotic, like, was it Detroit, Kevin?
I hate to brag, John, yes.
yeah, you're not a bragger, especially when it comes to your hair. Kevin Downey Jr.
How do you like the shirt, though, baby? Check it out.
We, the people, are pissed off. You are not kidding. I got to tell you, man, there is not a place I go where it's not the topic of conversation, where people are not like at a tipping point, a boiling point. They are really pissed off, and I get it. They should be right about now. There's so much going on that either you're willfully ignorant or you're part of the problem.
You know what? I just wrote something very similar. I write for pjmedia.com. Go there, click columnist, click Kevin Downey Jr., and read everything I write, because the more you read, the more I eat. And I just said that you're either not paying attention, or you're in denial, or you're an enemy of the state. You are in on it.
There are people that I come across, Kevin, that they just don't care. They're so involved. I will, from a more compassionate perspective, I'll say this. Rick Corso helped me soften my view a little bit. You know, you and I had our careers sidelined because of wokeism. So we've had 2 years of being directly affected by this. Excuse me. There were many years leading up to it. We saw it in the making for at least 5 to 7 years before that. And we now know well that it was in the making even decades prior to that. However, it got to our shores probably about 7 years ago when they started siding with the hecklers. Like the angry letter from the malcontent in the audience actually got some traction from the club. What?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So,
John, we're on your side, but we got to talk about this email we got. Like, what? Then you're not on my side.
You remember when I was doing radio, right?
Yeah.
Back in Albany, I was doing radio with a guy up in Albany, New York, named Bob Wolf. We did a Christmas album. It was probably 2001. And it was selling like crazy in our local markets. And because it was called We Three Kings, I was dressed as Elvis. We had Martin Luther King, and Bob put on a wig with blackface to be Don King with the cigar. We Three Kings, right? Hokey, cheesy. It's a stupid joke. They got a letter, one letter. This thing was selling double digits every day at just our local stores, and triple digits actually. And suddenly, one letter from somebody who complained, "How dare you put somebody on in blackface?" And the whole thing got pulled down.
Never mind.
One letter.
The hundreds of people spending money, enjoying the product. That happened to me. I was in a club called Off Broadway in Lexington, Kentucky. And remember when clubs went Wednesday through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 shows?
Yeah, it was like a whole week. Yep.
So in 6 shows, you would perform for maybe, I don't know, 15, 1,600 people, whatever it is. Killed. Everything went great. One email. That man made a joke about dead hookers, and my sister got hooked on heroin, became a hooker, and got killed. Never came back. One joke in front of one person cost me, I think I made $1,500, and that was 17 years ago. Do the math. That's how much money I lost because one Karen, whose sister was a crack whore, fucked up my gig.
You know, the first time I actually saw this coming into my sphere of awareness was probably in the early 90s. I was working Rascals, a classic comedy club back in the day, and there was some woman who was obviously loaded, sitting right in the middle of the audience, and I made some offhanded, misogynistic joke, and she said something like, I don't even know what the joke was, but she immediately interpreted it as, I'm endorsing battered women. And I hit her with that old line. I said, hey, there was 1 million battered women in the States last year. You know why? They don't listen. And Kevin, she stood up in the middle of the audience. It actually scared me because she stood up in the middle of the crowd and she stared up into the ceiling and she just started rambling, like these insane ramblings, like these statistics. There were over 680,000 battered women in America last year. Domestic violence is the number one cause with mental illness in childhood. And I was like, what the hell is that? They actually had to come up, like escort her out of the club. And the owner, Mark Magnuson, comes up to me and he goes, listen, just stay down here. She is on a rampage. We're going to get her out of the club. Well, nobody paid attention to any of that nonsense back then. She came back every single night, he told me, for almost 2 weeks in a row. Apparently she was an attorney, dropping off all kinds of letters, threatening all kinds of legal action. Insanity. But that was an anomaly. But that was the mid-90s. And everyone went like, the hell out of here. Who would have thunk? Fast forward to almost 20 years later, they're actually listening to these lunatics because of a joke.
Yep. That's what we call a harbinger, Johnny. It was a harbinger. We all missed it.
I'll tell you what, who's impressing me? Again, I got to give props to my comedic brothers and sisters in arms. Bill Maher is amazing. He's coming around with some really classy, amazing, funny stuff. Russell Brand, who we talk about all the time. Rogan, of course, is right on the leading edge of all of that. And of course, Kevin Downey Jr.
Mark's talking about transitioning. He goes, when I was 12, I wanted to be a pirate. No one scheduled me for a peg leg replacement and an eye amputation.
Yeah, and eye surgery and a peg leg removal. Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Speaking of which, if you haven't seen it yet, check out Matt Walsh's What It Is to Be What's a Woman?
What is a woman? Did you see it?
It's awesome. Yes. It's amazing.
Okay. We're doing
Matt
that.
Walsh
We're doing that
amazing.
tomorrow.
You gotta go watch it. He's just amazing. Now, Elon Musk has come forward and he has actually said out loud, I love it. It's in this article. Hold on. Let me get my grandpa glasses and look this up. So he's apparently canned a couple of the let me get the letters right. LGBTQ. We use that as let's get Biden to quit, but they put a plus sign on the end of it. So let's add all of them. They all got to go. LGBTQ diversity officials heads roll at Elon Musk's Tesla Corporation.
SpaceX.
So he goes on to say, laid off 2 high-ranking employees involved with, I love this, diversity and LGBTQ initiatives. And he goes on to talk about they were laid off because of a bunch of different stuff. But he says he announced that he was going to lay off 10% of the automaker staff due to, I love this quote, his super bad feeling about the economy. I guess, hey, if he's the boss, I guess he can do that. And so here's the thing: if you work for a big company, and I mentioned this to family members who are who are employed with big companies. If you hear the terms inclusion, diversity, and equity, that is code for commie.
Yes.
Correct?
That means you're about to be fired.
Yeah.
Because the communists are taking over.
Correct. They started this on Carnival 2.5 years ago, and I remember the first commercial I ever saw that they ran for it inside the crew in ship programming. I went, what the hell is this? Diversity, inclusion, and equity, what? And they gave themselves an award for it. I was like, what is this shit?
Of course.
Yeah. Here's the inclusion if you're a comic. If people are laughing and you're laughing, you're included. If you don't think it's funny,
yes,
you're not. It's pretty basic stuff.
It's amazing to me that these companies will take a 50-50 chance. Like, we're going to go all woke because we think that's the right thing to do. But there's it's actually probably a 60% chance a bunch of people are going to not come on your boat anymore. Because Disney just released a new kids film, a cartoon film called Lightyear, Buzz Lightyear.
Right, I saw that, and yep.
Into the side of a mountain, because no one needs woke. They're kids. Leave them alone. You know what? It's a trans too far, John. They pushed it too far. The truth is, I don't care if a guy puts a dress on. You can be a woman, go do your thing. But when you want to get me fired because I know you're not a woman, that's where things get crazy. But they took it even further. They're going after kids. I just heard today there's a drag show. You know these drag show library? They're bringing drag outfits for kids to try on now. That's recruitment, John. They're not trying to entertain or show kids another way. It's recruitment. And that's where you go wrong. We learned this in Virginia, where a parent went nuts because, don't blame him. His daughter was anally raped by a trans kid. So he shows up at a school board meeting and goes, why is that kid still in the school? And he actually gets a little bloodied up with the cops because they arrest him. But it started, that's where I think the whole thing started. When you're protecting a trans dude, a rapist, but he's trans, so you let him. They moved him to another school where he attacked another girl. You can't go for kids. That's where woke loses. And I hate that something bad happened to a girl. I hate that things are happening to kids. But you don't go for kids. That's where people draw the line. That's where the silent majority says, "Fuck you."
Did you see the video of the tranny storytelling hour where the parents came in and actually confronted them, where they said, this guy's on YouTube talking about doing stuff to kids, and they showed the wokies what this guy was doing? Did you see that freak show?
Yes. How are we wrong here? How are we the bigots?
That's what I don't get. How is it that we or people who see this are not? I'm not even a parent. I don't have skin in that game per se because they're not my kids. I have nieces and nephews, but they're not my direct kids. How are you not up there yelling and screaming and pulling your kids out of whatever it is that's going on with the tranny storytelling hour? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. You know what? There are some parents who are on board. I would say a lot. There are some who play along, and they're probably all in New York City and San Francisco. You know where they are. I don't have to tell you. Seattle. We know where they are. But for the most part, I think a lot of people are afraid to be labeled. I'm not afraid to be labeled. I'm called a bigot on Facebook every day. You know what? It bothered me at first. Why would they think that? Now, I don't care. That is not who I am. I just say, keep your waxed arse away from children. No one needs to see a man in a tutu. If you want to pay to see that, go see that. But I just saw one today where it's, what do you call it, a drag show for kids. And this dude in a dress is just like shaking it right in this kid's face. I was like, oh, come on. And grandma like covers the kid's eyes. No, you're there. You're there. Like, you've already made the mistake.
I still think they're trying to soften the blow for when they do the big reveal with Michelle, aka Big Mike Obama. Right? It makes sense when I first started red pilling people with Michelle Obama's a dude. They were like, "You're crazy. You're this. You're that." Well, I thought it was crazy too. But now, when you look at what's going on, where they're trying to not just normalize, they're trying to accelerate and make it take precedence. Like they want authority. Yes. They want these trannies to be in charge. Because wouldn't that be amazing if a transsexual woman / man who came out of the closet was already in the White House at one time and is running again? Is it so crazy to think that Michelle Obama is a dude? Ever see her next? I mean, there was someone showed me a picture once of her back next to Mike Tyson's back. There were two like juxtaposed pictures. She had like a strapless shirt on, and I swear to God, it took me a minute to go, which one's Tyson? Which one's Michelle? She's gigantic.
You know what? A lot of people don't remember this, but Barack Obama was the first president to tell public schools, you will not get federal funding if you do not have a restroom for trans kids. Now, how many trans kids are in the 3rd grade or 6th grade? None. That was just a prelim. You know what I mean? That was just getting people ready for what's coming. And now Biden's done the same thing. You need to do all this for the trans kids or you don't get lunch money, you little bigots.
Unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, watch it. What is a Woman? Matt Walsh, Daily Wire. They're doing a lot of great original content. Kevin and I both think it's been feeling like that for a while, though, now, that we're reaching a tipping point. And there's some indicators. Yep. There's some indicators. Musk is one of those guys that's still a question mark in my head, even though he said, and this was his quote, the wokeism virus, that's what he called it. The wokeism mind virus, actually, I believe was the verbatim quote, is the greatest threat to humanity. And I have to agree with him. The wokest mind virus. It's a sick ideological cult.
Yep, I agree too. And remember, originally it was all about gay rights. Gay people want the right to get married. Well, they got that, and that's great. I mean, I'm all for that. But it didn't stop. The trans authoritarians took over. And now it's not only will you accept this man in a skirt, if you don't date this woman, you're a bigot. And John, I've said it before, I know 100 lefty men going, a man in a dress is a girl, that's a woman, you bigot. I'm like, how many of you had sex with? They all go, yeah, show me. Come on, put your money where your mouth is. Suck a chick's dick, you asshole. Do it.
Hi-oh! Well, is she cute? So you've got some information, some stories to tell us about what's going on around in the sphere of the right side of our agenda.
I do. So this has gotten a little press. It should have gotten more. The biggest commie district attorney in the nation, a guy named Chesa Boudin, working in San Francisco, just got recalled. He's out of a job. Now, this is important, and I say the biggest commie because his parents were members of the Weather Underground, and they went to prison for 20 to 30 years. Yeah. In 1981, they were getaway drivers for the Black Liberation Army who wanted to rob a Brinks truck, but they killed 2 cops and a Brinks driver in the process. So you know the way the law works, John. If you're the getaway driver, you didn't touch a gun, you still go to jail. You're part of it. You were involved. So this man and woman go to jail, and they have a 14-month-old boy named Chesa, who changes his name to Bodine at some point, or Bowden. But he's raised by
Biden.
What's his name? Bill Ayers. Bill Ayers, the biggest commie in the nation. They raise him. They send him to all the right schools. He's got all the money in the world. He goes to Oxford in England. He goes to Yale, I believe. He works for Hugo Chavez, and he ends up in San Francisco, and he runs for district attorney and wins. Now, here's where things get funky, and I'll be the big bad racist white guy to say it. The left, all these leftist DAs, they're letting black people out of jail, and they're not putting black criminals in jail because racism or something. So they were beating the piss out of Asian people, and they still are. Filipino man got knocked out in a mall yesterday and robbed by a black guy. You can see the video. He's on the ground, and the guy goes to his pockets, takes his necklace. But it was the Asian people that were the juice behind this recall, and they voted him out. Now he's gone, and I thought, well, what are the odds that's really going to go? Because it's a lot of Asian people there, and I get it. Now it's on in Philly. I forget the guy's name, Cruzman, whatever his name. He's the DA, and he's letting all these criminals out, and the no bail laws are keeping them out. So now they're going after him. But they do have an Asian community, not as big as San Francisco. So I'm kind of curious to see where this goes. But remember, the elections in November in Virginia went for a Republican. That's important. Also remember, Staten Island, New York, and Long Island in November went Republican. Now, here's the kicker. A Mexican Republican woman just beat out a Democrat to be a rep in Texas in a town that has voted for Democrats for the last 150 years. Now, she's Mexican. She lives here legally. That's very important because the legal people don't want the illegal people coming here. They do not want that. I know a lot of people think, oh, the Mexicans want the Mexicans. No. The Latino people, you go like Cuba, Puerto Rico, they don't want the Honduras.
Yeah, they work
here.
their asses off to be here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like everybody.
So there's no love for this. You got to have room for the illegals. No. But 150-year stint that voted Democrat, now Republican. And it's important to say that she's Mexican because that's going to draw a lot of Mexican votes. It's going to draw a lot of Mexican people to the Republican side. There's a big turnaround. The left said, if we let all these people in, they're going to vote for us. And you know what? They got here legally, and they said, we're not voting for you because we don't want those people here. They misjudged this. I think unless there's major cheating, which I think we all know is a possibility, they keep talking about the red wave. I think the Democrats could be dead for a generation, or at least, I'd say 20 years, because they've caused too much havoc, too much death. I mean, what do you pay for gas? There's a place in Michigan, there's a police department that they've already used up their gas budget, so they're not responding to non-emergency calls. So, John, you tell me, how important is that? A non-emergency call, you still got to go, right? But they can't.
I'll be commandeering a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Do you remember what department that was?
Small town in Michigan. I'll look it up. I'll text it to you for next time.
You know what? I could totally see that coming. These small municipalities have a certain budget for vehicles, for equipment. That's why I work for 2 part-time departments, and they have some full-time officers, and the rest are supplemented by part-time officers. And it works out great for them because they don't have to do full-on benefits. They don't have to do a huge pension plan. So it's a nice side hustle for anybody that wants to work as a police officer still in New York State, and it saves the town money. But I also know that their budget is a big deal. They're very tight about going over on hours, going over on expenses, all of that stuff. And I could totally see that coming. Where we fill up with these big giant gas reservoirs, and I don't even think twice about it. But now that you're mentioning that, I could totally see that coming up at a budget at a board meeting where they go, well, because I patrol one town that I patrol, just one is 72 square miles, and sometimes it's just me and another officer on patrol. Now, granted, we have state police, we have sheriffs, but sometimes it's just me and another officer covering almost 100 square miles. Imagine that. If we had to, and it happens quite often, we get a call for a loose dog on the west side of town, and then it turns out there's an actual call, a real assault, active domestic, on the other side of town, and it takes 30 minutes, lights and sirens, to get there.
Wow.
I mean, $5 a gallon, it was probably an $800 call. And then let's see, factor in the $40 that I get, and my, I could totally see that happening.
You know what? And that's the first one. I promise you, there's going to be more. And when the police situation breaks down, and the left has been pushing to break down the police for years now, defund the police, and they want what is it, that mental health people to come to a barricaded gunman. Yeah, that's a great idea. Look, this is all about creating anarchy, because when you create anarchy, you can create communism, and that's the final goal, folks. They want anarchy.
They want anarchy. Remember, keep your stuff together, stay focused, stay calm, most of all, stay safe. If you see something happening, unless you feel it's an emergency, don't get yourself involved. Call me and Kevin. I'm going to give you Kevin's number right now. You can call him. I'm John Mulrooney. This is Kevin Downey. We're going to keep you updated as much as you can, as we can. You're listening to Toe to Toe, sponsored by Dino Luzzi Energy Drink.